Throughout my years as a trucker, I've spent countless hours traveling the vast highways and byways of this country. However, there was one fateful night when I took a wrong turn that led me down an unimaginable path. It was a dark and stormy evening, rain relentlessly battering my windshield and hindering my visibility. The weight of fatigue burdened my eyelids, and I desperately needed a place to rest. The GPS directed me to an unfamiliar exit, promising a nearby rest stop. Little did I know that this turn would alter the course of my life forever. As I followed the winding road, the rain grew more intense, making it challenging to see beyond my headlights. The night was silent, save for the rumble of my engine. An uneasy feeling settled in my chest, but I dismissed it as a product of exhaustion and the unfamiliar surroundings. With each passing mile, the road grew narrower and more isolated, filling me with a sense of dread. I should have turned back, but curiosity compelled me to continue. I had to discover where this road would lead. After what felt like an eternity, the rain subsided and the clouds parted, revealing a moonlit clearing ahead. Cautiously, I pulled into a small clearing surrounded by towering trees. It felt as if I had stumbled upon a forgotten corner of the world, untouched by time. Stepping out of my truck, the stillness of the night enveloped me. My senses sharpened as I surveyed my surroundings, my heart pounding in my chest. I noticed a weathered sign, barely legible in the moonlight. It warned of an abandoned town, advising entry at my own risk. My instincts urged me to turn back, but my curiosity pushed me forward. I cautiously ventured into the town, each step echoing through the empty streets. Broken windows stared back at me like hollow eyes, and the wind carried whispered secrets I was never meant to hear. The eerie silence was disrupted by a distant sound of faint, mournful howl that sent shivers down my spine. I quickened my pace, desperate to find my way out, but the streets twisted and turned, leading me deeper into this forgotten place. As I turned a corner, I froze in my tracks. Before me stood a dilapidated building, the remnants of an old factory, serving as a constant reminder that evil can lurk in the most ordinary of circumstances. In the shadows, I caught glimpses of an elusive figure darting between debris. My heart raced as I cautiously approached, my eyes locked on the figure. But it vanished, leaving only a trail of unease behind. An unshakable feeling of being watched consumed me, as if I had stumbled into a nightmare with no means of escape. Suddenly, a piercing scream shattered the silence, reverberating through the empty streets. It chilled me to the core, igniting primal fear within me. I had to get out of there. I retraced my steps, my senses heightened, adrenaline pumping through my veins. Panic constricted my throat as the town seemed to shift and distort, obfuscating my sense of direction. The path that had led me in now eluded me, and a profound sense of hopelessness washed over me. Darkness closed in, engulfing the moonlight, suffocating me in its abyss. Whispers filled the air, sinister and unintelligible. I tried to call for help, but my voice vanished into the void. As I stumbled through the labyrinthine streets, I caught glimpses of twisted figures lurking in the shadows, their eyes gleaming with an unfathomable hunger. Fear consumed me as I realized I had become the prey, in a macabre game of survival. With every passing moment, the town tightened its grip on me. The buildings loomed overhead, resembling prison walls that trapped me in a nightmarish maze. The air grew heavy with a putrid stench, an amalgamation of decay, and despair. My heart pounded in my chest, my breaths ragged and desperate. I could feel unseen eyes upon me, their gaze searing into my soul. Every rustle of the wind, every creak of a broken floorboard sent chills down my spine. Time lost all meaning as I frantically searched for an escape. Every turn led me deeper into the labyrinth, farther away from the familiar world I once knew. Panic and exhaustion threatened to consume me, but I pressed on, driven by an instinct to survive. Then, in the distance, a faint glimmer of light pierced the darkness, sparking a surge of hope within me. I sprinted towards the source, my heart pounding with anticipation. As I drew closer, the light revealed itself as an open doorway, a gateway to freedom. Bursting through the threshold, I gasped for air, the night breeze filled my lungs. I had escaped the clutches of that forsaken town, but its horrors would forever haunt my nightmares. In the safety of the outside world, I collapsed to my knees, my body trembling with exhaustion and relief. I vowed never to speak of that night, burying it deep within the recesses of my mind. However, the memories persisted, a constant reminder of the darkness that can hide even in the most ordinary places. To this day, passing a road sign for that town sends a chill down my spine. I am forever changed, forever scarred by that encounter. I caution others to heed the warnings, to trust their instincts, and to avoid the path that leads to the unknown. In the depths of darkness, where reality blurs and nightmares come alive, the line between the ordinary and the terrifying shatters, leaving only fragmented pieces of a shattered soul behind. I have been a trucker for numerous years, traversing the country and encountering diverse individuals along my journeys. However, there is one night that continues to send shivers down my spine whenever I recollect it. It was a dark and stormy night, rain relentlessly battering the windshield of my truck as I navigated the desolate highway. The road was slippery, and my tired eyes struggled to stay focused on the path ahead. That's when I spotted her, a figure standing by the roadside, drenched and shivering. My instincts urged me to keep driving, to ignore the hitchhiker and continue on my way. But something compelled me to stop. Perhaps it was the look of desperation in her eyes, or the gnawing guilt of leaving someone stranded in such treacherous conditions. I rolled down the window against my better judgment and offered her a ride. She climbed into the cab, her clothes clinging to her frail body, and thanked me for stopping. Her voice was soft, almost haunting, but I dismissed it as mere fatigue playing tricks on my mind. As we drove in silence, a sense of unease settled within me. Her presence was unsettling, like a silent storm brewing within the confines of the truck. I attempted to strike up a conversation, but her responses were vague, as if she were lost in her own thoughts. The rain intensified, hammering against the truck, and visibility diminished to almost nothing. I struggled to keep the wheels steady on the slick road, relying on my instincts and the dim glow of the headlights to guide me. That's when she spoke, her voice cutting through the sound of the rain. She requested that I take her to a secluded location, off the beaten path. My unease grew, and I questioned her choice of destination. However, she insisted, her tone growing more urgent. Reluctantly, I veered off the main road and followed her directions. The road became narrower, winding through dense woods that seemed to close in around us. The atmosphere grew heavier, and a sense of isolation became palpable. A chill ran down my spine as she suddenly pointed out a dilapidated house nestled among the trees. It stood there like a forgotten relic, its windows shattered and the porch sagging with neglect. I couldn't comprehend why she wanted to go there, but I was too afraid to argue. I parked the truck and turned off the engine, and an eerie silence descended upon us. The rain ceased, leaving only the sound of our heavy breathing filled with apprehension. I turned to her, ready to ask why we had stopped, but she was gone. Panic surged through me as I scanned the empty cab. The door hadn't opened, and there was no sign of her departure. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. I stumbled out of the truck, my heart pounding, and cautiously approached the dilapidated house. Every creak of the floorboards echoed in the stillness, and the stale air carried a sense of decay. Hesitant, I reached out to push open the door. The hinges protested with a screech, as if warning me of the horrors that awaited inside. As I stepped into the darkness, the door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. I fumbled for a flashlight, desperately scanning the surroundings. What I witnessed made my blood run cold. The walls were adorned with sinister symbols and disturbing drawings, as if the house had been a haven for dark rituals. Shadows danced along the walls, casting twisted shapes that seemed to mock my fear. Footsteps echoed from somewhere above, growing louder and closer. I climbed the decaying stairs, my heart pounding, my mind racing with thoughts of escape. The air grew colder, chilling me to the bone. The door to one of the rooms creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space. I cautiously entered, my eyes widening at the sight before me. The room was filled with photographs, each one featuring the same hitchhiker I had picked up earlier. My mind reeled as I realized the truth. She was no ordinary hitchhiker. There was something sinister about her, something that drew me into her web of darkness. But why? What did she want with me? Suddenly, I heard her whispering voice, barely audible yet carried by the wind. It echoed through the house, sending a chill down my spine. "You shouldn't have picked me up," she said, her voice dripping with malevolence. Fear gripped me, my body paralyzed by the realization of my own novelty. I was trapped in her twisted game, a pawn in her wicked plan. The air grew heavy with an otherworldly presence, as if unseen forces closed in around me. Desperation compelled me to find an escape route. I stumbled through the house, my heart pounding, my mind racing with thoughts of survival. But no matter which path I took, the room seemed to shift and change, the walls closing in on me. Time lost all meaning as I ran through the labyrinthine cursed house. Every turn seemed to lead me deeper into the darkness, farther away from any hope of escape. The shadows whispered and taunted, their voices mingling with the echoes of my own fears. Exhausted and on the verge of surrender, I stumbled upon a small cellar door hidden beneath a dusty rug. With a glimmer of hope, I flung it open and descended into the darkness below. The air was dank and suffocating, but it was a small price to pay for a chance at freedom. As I reached the bottom, my heart sank. The cellar was filled with coffins, row upon row of them. Each one a silent reminder of lives lost to this malevolent force. It was a chilling realization that I was not the first to fall into this trap. Desperation pushed me forward, my body propelled by a primal instinct to survive. I pushed open the heavy wooden doors at the end of the cellar, only to find myself face to face with the hitchhiker herself. Her eyes gleamed with haunting intensity, her smile sending shivers down my spine. I could feel her power, her malevolence seeping into every pore of my being. There was no escape. In that moment, I surrendered to the nightmare. I accepted my fate and embraced the darkness. As she reached out to touch me, I closed my eyes, ready to face whatever horrors awaited me. But then, a sound echoed through the air, a siren in the distance, growing louder with each passing moment. It was the sound of salvation, the cavalry arriving just in time to snatch me from the clutches of the hitchhiker's grip. In the chaos that followed, the hitchhiker disappeared, her presence fading like a wisp of smoke. The police arrived, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, their presence a beacon of safety. As I was whisked away from the cursed house, I looked back one last time. It stood there, silent and foreboding, a monument to the nightmares that had unfolded within its walls. I vowed to forget, to move on from the horrors I had witnessed, but the scars would forever remain. To this day, I can't help but shudder when I see a hitchhiker on the side of the road, or pass by a desolate house. The encounter with the hitchhiker had shaken me to my core, reminding me of the darkness that lurks beneath the surface of the everyday world. I learned a valuable lesson that night, one that I carry with me as a constant reminder. The line between safety and danger is often thin and easily crossed. We must trust our instincts and be cautious of the unknown, for in the shadows lie unimaginable terrors. But amidst the horror and fear, there is also strength and resilience. I survived that nightmare, emerging with a newfound appreciation for life and a determination to face whatever darkness may come my way. So, as I continue my journey on the open road, I do so with caution and a vigilant eye. I am forever changed by the harrowing encounter, forever aware of the thin veil that separates the ordinary from the nightmare. And if, by chance, you find yourself faced with a choice to ignore the unknown or embrace it, remember my story. Be cautious of the hitchhiker on the side of the road, for behind their innocent appearance may lie a darkness that could consume you whole. Trust your instincts and tread carefully, for in the realm of nightmares, even the simplest encounters can lead to the most horrifying of outcomes. After hours of being on the road, the continuous sound of the engine made me increasingly tired. The countryside was engulfed in darkness as I drove along the deserted highway. It was 2 a.m. according to the clock on my dashboard, a time when most people were fast asleep. Suddenly, I felt a strong jolt and heard a loud thud, followed by the dreaded sound of a flat tire. Feeling frustrated and exhausted, I pulled the truck to the side of the road. It was the last thing I needed on a cold and lonely night. I reached for my phone and dialed my boss's number. He assured me that help was on the way, but it would take a few hours for the recovery truck to arrive. Resigned to my situation, I stepped out of the truck to examine the damage. As I stood there, feeling the cold night air, a car pulled up next to me. The driver rolled down the window, revealing a friendly face. He introduced himself as John and kindly offered me a hot drink from his flask. Grateful for the gesture, I accepted and took a sip, feeling the warmth spread through me. The aroma of coffee provided a brief sense of comfort. Amidst the cold darkness, we engaged in casual conversation while I savored the drink, and the conversation flowed effortlessly. However, after about 20 minutes, I began to experience an odd sensation. The world around me started spinning, and my head grew heavy. Panic gripped me as I realized something was terribly wrong. I tried to speak, but my words became slurred, and my limbs felt heavy, as if weighed down by invisible restraints. Fear surged through me as I struggled to comprehend what was happening. Through blurred vision, I witnessed John's smile transform into a sinister grin. It was then that I understood the horrifying truth. The drink he had given me was spiked with something that was now taking control of my body and mind. Desperation fueled my fight for survival, as I mustered every ounce of strength to stumble away from the car. My vision faded in and out of focus as I needed to seek help and escape this nightmare. As I stumbled down the desolate road, the surroundings distorted and twisted. Mocking shadows danced around me, their elongated forms taunting my feeble attempts to flee. Time lost its relevance as I weakly traversed through the darkness, with my body growing weaker by the moment. My consciousness slipped away, and my thoughts became muddled and disjointed. Suddenly, I heard the distant rumble of an approaching vehicle, summoning a final surge of energy. I propelled myself forward, desperately hoping it was my salvation. Through the haze, I caught sight of the recovery truck's headlights piercing the darkness. Relief washed over me as the driver hurried to assist me. He called for medical help and reassured me that everything would be fine. As I lay in the back of the ambulance, my body trembling and weakened, I couldn't help but wonder about John's identity and his motives for targeting me. The reasons remained elusive, lost in the darkness that had engulfed me entirely. However, one thing was clear: I had narrowly escaped a nightmarish and sinister encounter that would haunt me for the rest of my life. From that night forward, I vowed to remain vigilant, to trust my instincts, and to be cautious of those who offered help during the darkest hours. For sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones hidden in plain sight, preying on unsuspecting victims. As I continue my journey as a trucker, I carry the weight of that nightmare with me, serving as a constant reminder that evil can lurk in the most ordinary of circumstances.